And then even worse, they had this god, this foreign god named Moloch, and they sacrificed their children to Moloch. Manasseh sacrificed his son to Moloch. He was a bad king. Babylon came along the scene, and they captured King Manasseh, and they took him away in chains. And while he was in chains in Babylon, his heart was pretty humbled. He cried out to God for mercy. And there's a little bit of that prayer in 2 Chronicles 33, but did you know that in the Apocrypha there's one chapter called the Prayer of Manasseh? You should read it sometime. It's one chapter, it's short. This is a sample of what he said. Remember, a proud man, listen to him now. You offer me, the sinner, the chance to change my heart and life, because my sins outnumber the grains of sand by the sea. I deserve the troubles I encountered. Already I'm caught in a trap. I'm held down by iron chains so that I can't lift up my head because of my sins. I have sinned, Lord, I have sinned, and I'm praying, I'm begging you, forgive me, Lord, forgive me. In me you'll show how kind you are, although I'm not worthy, you'll save me according to your great mercy. Does that sound like a humble man? It does to me. And he got to go back to being king in Israel. He was released from Babylon. Jesus said, blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. In James it says, judgment will be without mercy to those who have shown no mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment. James 2:13. You see, part of pride is judging other people. And oh, we're good at that. We think, well, we're not really quite as bad as the other person that we're thinking about. We're not on the front page of the tabloids at the grocery store, thank God for that. Those people now, they've really done some bad things. So we're a little bit better because they're worse. And part of having pride is not only being judgmental, but it's also having a critical spirit. It's gossiping about other people, saying, you won't believe what I heard about so-and-so. That's pride. Ultimately, that's pride. So, as you think about how to go through Lent, I would encourage you to think about pride. If Lewis is right, if that's the worst sin of all, that's the one we should tackle first, to give up for Lent. And then one last thought about greed. You know, I don't think in life that we can take any of the money we've made past this lifetime, can we? I have it on good authority from Paul to Timothy. And Timothy was the last two books that Paul wrote before he was executed in Rome. This was kind of like his swan song. This is the last thing to pay attention to. 1 Timothy chapter 6. For we brought nothing into the world, and we can be certain we can't take anything out of this world with us. But if we have food and clothing, with these we shall be content. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptations, into a snare, into many senseless and hurtful desires that plunge men and women into ruin and destruction. For the love of money, not money itself, but the love of money is the root of all evil. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced their hearts with many pangs. And as for the rich in this world, that's all of us. Okay, and you're thinking, no, we're not Warren Buffett's, we're not Bill Gates, we don't have that kind of money, or the people in Washington. Did you know that over half of the world's population, over 3 billion people, live on less than $2 a day? Half. And 80% of the world's population lives on less than $10 a day. 80% live on less than $10 a day. We are rich by anyone's standards. So Paul says, for all of us who are rich in the world, charge them not to be haughty or arrogant or prideful, nor to set their hopes on uncertain riches, but on God, who richly furnishes us with everything to enjoy. They are to do good, to be rich in good deeds, liberal and generous, thus laying up for yourselves a good foundation for the future, so that you may take hold of the life which is life indeed. How many times have you heard somebody say, oh, so-and-so doesn't have a life? Happens. What is our life in Christ? It's to be generous. And I can tell you this, when you reach that point of generosity, you will never miss a dime, a dollar, or $100 that you've ever given to anyone. I tell you that from my own personal experience. And one last thing on greed. You know, you probably will remember this when I read it to you. But the very last parable that Jesus spoke in Matthew's Gospel is Matthew 25. It's called a parable of the sheep and the goats. Do you remember? If you think, parenthetically here, if you think of universalism, what does universalism mean? It means that eventually all will go to heaven. There really isn't a place called hell in the end. Universalism means that eventually all will be saved and go to heaven. Somehow or another it's going to happen. Jesus doesn't give us much hope in this parable. In fact, the one person that talked the most about hell was Jesus. Read this to you. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne, and before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate them one from another as a sheep separates the sheep, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And the shepherd, Jesus, will place the sheep at his right hand, but the goats on his left. And the king will say to those on his right hand, Come, come, O blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. And the righteous will answer him,